Welcome to another edition of Giants Top 100 Players. We continue our countdown to the top 100 players in Giants history. Part of our blue ribbon panel is Judy Batista of NFL Media, longtime reporter covering the National Football League. And Judy, 5,000 players in the hopper going back to 1925. Then we had the votable list. Talk about the challenges that we faced as a group trying to narrow it down to 100.
I feel like every time I saw you when we were going through this process, I would say, wow, this is really hard. I mean, there were some who are obvious and you sort of know where those players have to go. But narrowing that many great players down, you could make an argument for all of them to be on the list, and knowing you had to get it down to 100, it was a real challenge. And obviously the biggest challenge, and I think we'll probably get to it in this segment, is comparing players across eras. That there's great players from all of the decades, and trying to position them in the 100, that was really hard.
Well, let's get to it. We have number 64, who ironically, yet another player who finished in the rankings with a uniform number that they wore.
Yeah, that was pretty cool when they told me that.
And trust me, pure vote got us to 64. You know, being a Super Bowl champion, playing for this great franchise, being part of the first championship team in 30 years when the Giants won in 1986, to be recognized as one of the top 100 players of all time.
Joanne called me from the Giants, and I got chills. It's like, this is the top organization. You know, well and Tamara, I've thought, was like right away. This is the place. The Giants are the reason why the NFL is the NFL right now. So I'm part of that organization, and I feel very proud about it.
And then Brandon Jacobs, number 69 on our list. Brandon, what about for you as a guy that won a couple Super Bowls with this franchise, and to know that you're one of the greatest guys to ever put on a uniform?
Well, first off, this organization, there's nothing like it. You know, second to none. You know, great management. Got a chance to know the families very well, both families, the Mary and Tish family. You know, just being around here and just looking at the history of the franchise and all the great guys and all the great players that came through the place, all the great coaches, everybody that been a part of this thing. So, you know, just for me to be sitting where I'm sitting, just to be mentioned in the top 100, like anywhere in it, I mean, I'm definitely honored.
Jim, obviously the Giants fan base had been starved. They made the playoffs for the first time in 1981. They hadn't been to the playoffs since 1963. And then you had the 84 team coming on, and you got this sense that they were building towards it. What was it like as that group was coming together, leading to Super Bowl 21?
83 was the worst year that I've ever experienced through college or pros. It was like everyone got hurt. There was a lot of things happening. So Bill Parcells' first year coaching as a head coach, and there's rumors that Bill Parcells is going to lose his job. He just said, listen, hey, we got to circle the wagons here. We make the playoffs in 1984. We beat the Rams, who really gave it to us in the beginning of the season. It was Dickerson's first year. We beat them out there. We played the 49ers. They ended up winning that Super Bowl in 84, and we felt that we could play against them. We could have beat them that game in 1984, and they said that was their best team they ever had at the time. So I go, if that's the case, we can do this.
Every guy that we've ever talked to said that set the stage for 86. Did you feel that way?
We got our confidence in 1984 with our organization. 86, people started saying, oh, wait a minute, the Giants, they're going to win. And we knew that, and the pressure was on us.
San Francisco was almost like a division opponent, and you demolished them at Giant Stadium.
Sims with people in his face, touchdown to Bobby Johnson.
You put the hit on Montana. Take me through that hit. Take me through that play.
It was just before the half, and they were trying to get down and get a score just before half to try to get back in the game. What happened on that play, LT dropped into coverage. So I went in, and he was in the midst of letting the ball go, and he hit him underneath his arm.
Throws wildly, intercepted. There goes Taylor down to the 20. 10, touchdown. LT, way to go.
When I hit him, he kind of flipped. And as he flipped, he came down, and he actually came down right on top of his head. I knew it was hurt because it was a thump. It was one of those things where you kind of like get the perfect hit, and that catapulted us into that 86 Super Bowl.
The Super Bowl champions are the Giants.
Brandon, what about for you? When did you feel that momentum building toward that 07 team?
Well, you know, I got drafted in 2005, obviously. You know, I played 2 years here with Tiki.
Keep an eye out. We're going to have heavy dose when running the ball, so keep an eye out.
My first year, I just did the short yardage and goal line.
Handoff, Jacobs runs right inside the 5, touchdown Brandon Jacobs. Just powered his way in. 5-yard touchdown run, and the rookie gets his first career NFL touchdown.
The big guy that they got to be the goal line running back and the short yardage back puts it in the end zone.
Well, second year come, I get better. You know, I start doing a little third down, which was the most difficult part for me. So when I'm the third down back my second year.
Did you get a sense that people were scared to tackle you when you got that head of steam going?
Oh yeah.
And were people surprised at how fast you were?
I always wanted to have speed because I'm a big back. Not a lot of people gonna think I'm fast, so I ran some people over, ran by some people, used some speed, and people were very, very surprised at what they'd seen for those next 3 to 4 years after that.
Manning, handoff right for Jacobs. Finds the crease. 35-30 to the right sideline, 20, 15, 10, 5. Touchdown, Brandon Jacobs.
Manning takes the snap, back to throw. Sets, delivers one left. Jacobs got it on the run, up the left sideline, 40, midfield, 35. 25, shakes a tackle, still on his feet, to the 10, to the 5, to the pylon, touchdown! How did he stay in bounds?
We come into 2007, and now I'm starting, and the first week of the season, I get hurt. I go out with a strained MCL. We play down in Dallas. So now I'm out the next 2 weeks. I didn't play against Green Bay. I didn't play against the Redskins when the boys went to Redskins and got that last minute stop. On that 4th down stop on the goal line, and when Antonio made a play for us to win our first game that year. We was 1-2.
4th and goal at the 1. Takes the snap, handoff left for Betts, and he's tripped up and stopped short. They're gonna win the ball game.
And we ripped off 6 straight. We got to 6-2, and we ended up being 10-6 on the season. And just getting down to it, when we had to play the Patriots, week 17 that season, and they were undefeated. So we play them tight. We should have beat them right here in Giant Stadium. We didn't. We came up a little short, but that gave us the type of momentum going into the playoffs that we needed, and that boosted us into the postseason.
That was one of the most thrilling games I've ever covered, that end of the regular season game, because you didn't have to play. I think a lot of the reporters thought Coughlin was crazy to risk everybody's health.
That game, John Madden gave him a voice message, gave Coughlin a voice message and said, listen, very proud. He was excited.
Yeah, Tom, this is John Madden calling on Sunday morning just to congratulate you and your team for a great effort last night. Not good, but great. I was so damn proud of what you guys did. Congratulations.
That game gave you guys the momentum and the mindset, because they're the champions, right? You said, we can beat these guys.
We just had this team on the ropes that no one else had beat. So the last team that they want to see in any kind of Super Bowl is us. Tampa was the only team along the way to the Super Bowl that we hadn't played earlier that season. Dallas beat us twice that year. Green Bay blew us out. We go to Tampa first, then we go to Dallas, then we go to Green Bay in the NFC Championship game.
When you played that Green Bay game, remember the Green Bay game they played in the championship game? This guy right here changed the game. Someone went to try to tackle you, and you thumped him. When you're a football player, you love physical contact. It gives you adrenaline, it makes you play much better. And it was cold. You ran over, I don't remember who you ran over.
Woodson, he knocked the logo right off his helmet.
He was coming in out of control. All I had to do was give him a step inside. He'd have went for it, and I could have put my foot in the ground, went outside, and probably got 20, 30 yards. But I don't think that would have set the same tone as doing what I did to him.
And he was their best player.
Yeah.
That's the key. He was their best player. That was Woodson.
Take out the big guy.
Yep.
I want to ask you about number 61 on this list. Your teammate with Super Bowl 46, Jason Pierre-Paul. As a defensive end, he was unbelievable. What about him as a player? When you first saw him, what were you thinking?
The guy was still raw to football when he even got here. When he got drafted in the first round as a raw football player, no one knew what he was going to really turn into. But I think the Giants saw freakish athletic ability in Jason Pierre-Paul. So we're like, you know what, let's take a chance on this guy. So they brought this big guy in, 6'5", 270-some pounds, stupid athletic, fast, can do backflips and do all of this stuff. So Jason Pierre-Paul is probably one of the most athletic, if not the most athletic football player I've ever played with or seen.
Incredible arms, right? Remember, like incredibly long arms.
His 81-inch wingspan is huge.
It would feel like his arms could get to a quarterback like way before the rest of his body could. I mean, he just was that kind of
He
freakish
saved
athlete.
the season, too,
Right,
in
right.
11 because the Giants were teetering. And
Because of his arm length.
he blocks the field goal in Dallas that keeps the season alive.
Snap is good again. Kick on its way, and it's blocked! Blocked by the Giants, and it bounds into the end zone and through the back of the end zone, and the New York Giants have saved their season.
Let's see who gets a hand on it.
Is it Jason Pierre-Paul? He's done everything else tonight.
There he is.
Yep, Jason
There he is.
Pierre-Paul, JPP.
Jim, I want to ask you about Brian Kelly, who comes in at number 67 on this list. What about him as a teammate made him such a good player?
He was the guy who was a quarterback. He called all the signals. He did all it, put everyone together, and they had a strong defense. And in 1981, they were really, really good. And Brian Kelly was a guy that basically was the mind behind the defense in 1981. With Bill Parcells, and he meshed real well with Bill in that 81 season.
Let's talk about number 65 on this list, Shan OHara. Shan, undrafted free agent, starts his career with the Browns, winds up coming over as a free agent. Really solidified that offensive line for you guys. What was he like as a teammate? What was he like as a guy to play with?
Kind of an undersized guy. He played against everybody damn near bigger than him. Guys like 6'5", 6'6", 330-something pounds that he had no business competing with. And he laid it all on the line. Every single time he had that challenge. Great leader, knew the game, X's and O's. His IQ of the game is extremely high, helped us get in and out of pass protections. Just one hell of a leader.
He was the guy you went to tell you what plays were, to diagnose what had gone wrong on plays. He's such a great guy, as we know. He's such an affable presence in the locker room, but he was the guy, good game or bad game, that you went to because he could break everything down. They always tell you to talk to the offensive linemen because they know everything, and he was the epitome of that. He knew everything that had happened on the field.
Speaking of offensive linemen in Giants history, number 62 on this list is Greg Larson. Played for the Giants from 1961 all the way to 1973. Played the most games,
which is unbelievable,
of any offensive lineman in the history of the franchise. This is a guy that went to Pro Bowls, played in championship games, and it's a kind of an underrated part of Giants history a little bit in the fact that the amount of incredible offensive linemen that have played for this franchise.
Their good teams have always had good offensive lines. To me, the Greg Larson thing is incredible because when you look at his bio, how many times they were in the championship game or in the mix for the championship game. I mean, that is a remarkable career. And again, when you think of a player like this whose name maybe is not at the top of a list when you think of great Giants players, then you look at how many championship games he played in and how often the Giants were in the mix. It's a remarkable career.
And his longevity, too.
Right.
And number 63 is Dick Modzelewski, who played in 6 NFL championship games. He played 14 years in the NFL, 8 years with the Giants, and he played on the interior of that great defensive line that wound up winning the 56 championship, played in the greatest game ever played in 1958, and then those title matchups in 61 and 62 and 63. You're kind of part of that whole tradition.
Yeah.
Did you feel a burden knowing when you came to the Giants about the tradition of that 56 into the 60s and what it stood for and what being a Giants defensive player was all about?
Yeah, I think that's where it all started out. I mean, when they started yelling defense, that's where it originated, right, from the 50s and 60s.
Right.
So defense wasn't even a part of the deal at the time. So we'd get guys pinned down at a 3 or 4 yard line, and they just rise up, and that's where it all started with those guys.
A little history lesson, because I know neither of you had any contact with this gentleman, but he's number 66 on the list.
I don't think you had any contact with him
I did not either. His name is Cal Hubbard. He played for the Giants just for a couple of years back in 1936. He's a charter member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. He's the only guy that's in both the Pro Football Hall of Fame and the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame.
Incredible.
Yeah, I mean, he did it as an umpire, but he was that good as an umpire in baseball after his football career. He changed the way defenses were played in the 20s and 30s.
Right. This is one of the great players in NFL history, and he had a very short time with the Giants, but he did change the way defense was played. I mean, he is credited with people from his own era with changing the way defense was played. He was brought in specifically to improve the Giants' defense. This is a theme of this, to improve the Giants' defense. And then I believe in the season in which he arrived, they allowed 20 points. He was that impactful on the Giants that even though he only played here for a few years, you have to put him on the list.
Number 68 on the list is another outstanding defensive player for the Giants who appeared in the Super Bowl in 2000. Keith Hamilton was a character, and he was kind of a throwback. He was as tough as they come.
He was like the sort of the bridge between the eras.
I rented my first place from Keith Hamilton. My first apartment, moved here.
Oh, yeah?
I rented it from him.
Was he as much of a character as your landlord as he was?
Absolutely, absolutely. I could definitely see his demeanor as a player when I talked to him. Like, I probably would have loved to play with him.
Jim, I mean, obviously
Underrated player.
Underrated player.
Really good player. He dominated that defensive tackle spot.
Let's get it in here, D-line. Let's go. Let's go, D-line. Let's lock a load on their ass tonight, buddy. Let's go. Just like the playoffs, dog. 125%. I'm coming all night, Big Daddy. I hear you. You're not going to run on me.
He stepped up in games, big games. He was a really good player.
Yeah, and I mean, he originally came up as an edge, pass rushing end.
Yeah.
And then kind of morphed into that and then became the Grizzly veteran.
The Pitt, he went from Pitt, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Judy, number 70, again, another one from the 30s, but Red Bagro. Another guy that was a superstar in defense and one of the big play threats down the field as a receiver.
This guy literally made an impact on both sides of the ball, a significant impact on both sides of the ball. That's certainly worthy of at least the 70th spot.
Yeah, I mean, you're leading the league in interceptions, and you're leading the league in receptions.
And don't forget, at a time when they're not throwing the ball around all that much, right?
Correct.
It's not like now. So to get a lot of interceptions is a big accomplishment.
It kind of brings us all together here as we're kind of wrapping up. We've gone to players of yesteryear, the infancy stages of the National Football League, to your era, and to the present. And you know, just thinking about this top 100 and thinking about the 2 rings, and you think about this run that you had with the New York Giants, it's pretty special to learn about the past, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. You know, and I knew when I got drafted to this team, I learned then that this organization was the real deal, and they never forgot about their guys that came, you know, early on.
Jim, obviously, you know, you played a legendary team. It's got to be a really cool feeling to know that you're part of something that will live forever.
100%. And you know, I got goosebumps when I got it. And yeah, I love talking about this stuff. It's really, you can understand the defense and why the fans love the defense and chant defense the first time ever. And they did it with us, so it was great.
Cool stuff. Judy, thank you so much for being a part of this journey and coming down to 100, and a lot of fun spending time with you here.
It's been great and brought back a whole lot of memories, too, of games covered and games watched. Fantastic.
Jim, we appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Brandon, always good to see you as well.
Thanks for having me, man. I enjoy sitting up, you know, talking about the old days and, you know, talking about some of my teammates. And, you know, it's been great, man. Like I said, thankful to have been a part of this franchise, and they're second to none.
Kind of sums up, once a Giant, always a Giant. So for Judy Batista, Jim Burt, Brandon Jacobs, and our entire crew, make sure you check out all the Giants social media platforms as we count down to the top 100.